Hello everybody and welcome to some more World of Warcraft videos. That's right, we are back with some more profession videos. Today we're going to be covering specifically cooking and fishing, and in the video afterwards we will be covering the gathering professions, so mining, skinning, and herbing. Probably not in that order though. Most likely going to be in whatever order I manage to choose it from. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and talk about fishing. The brand new change to fishing hasn't really been a big difference. The big difference for fishing so far is not only has the icon changed, but now you have a fishing journal. Much like how you were able to look up fishing back then, you could look up fishing now and see that you have all of these pools that are based around all these other fish you could look at. As you can see, 3.2 second cast is usually about the time period at which you'd get the fish. But there's also various schools. It gives you a description on each fish in particular. So the first one we could talk about is the Islefish Dorado, which is an elusive fish where the fin is said to be resembled in the Dragon Isles. They're found in all bodies of water, kind of like the basic fish that we have nowadays. The Soul, I believe, is the name of it. Yes, it is the Soul. The Lost Soul is the name of the other fish. That it? Oh, that is. Alright, cool. Sorry, I'm watching something in the other screen, so we're done with that now. The scale belly mackerel. Tossing unused scale belly mackerel back in the water is a routine exercise among experienced anglers. This fish in particular you throw into the water and you get 5 more in fishing temporarily for 30 seconds, stacking, I think, up to 10 times. And the Shimmering Treasure Pool has returned. Much like in Classic, where you could fish up random pools of random crap in the middle of the ocean, there's just random crap in the middle of the ocean yet again. Fishing in these pools significantly increase your chance for rare treasures, which rare treasures also could have the rare fish inside, which I believe is any of these last 3 fish in particular. Next, we can go into the freshwater fish. Temporal dragonheads are a peculiar fish whose scales just blah 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 blah. These are especially active in areas such as the Uktuk water in the Waking Shores. What? When I hear the Waking Shores, my first thought is definitely not what it is. But it's going to be here, and it says specifically in areas such as Uktuk backwater. So if we go to the map real quick again, Uktuk backwater, I believe, is around Ruby Life Pools, and then here at the observatory is a good location. Back over here is another good one as well. And right about here, from the locations I remember as well. So here's a good location behind Ruby Life Pools. The spawning area where you kind of come in right here is pretty good. You'll get a lot right here when people come in and try to go for 100 fishing when they first get here, myself included. And then next, we have the 1,000 Piranha Swarm. These are especially active in Onomar Plains and the Waking Shores. I think the Waking Shores is basically when you come in from the boat, you'll find them in the Waking Shores. Next, we have the Ilarian Seamoth School, which is especially active in areas such as Iskar in the Azure Plain. So if we go to Azure Plain, Azure Span, pardon, why did it say Plains? Span, okay, I just read it wrong. So if we go to the Azure Span, you can see that there's a lot of rivers that you can end up getting these fish from. This is all ice though, like no chance you'll be able to fish it here. But you can fish it up along here, alongside the Cobalt Assembly. This fine river right here along the side of the plains. If you're on this side, you actually do get this side of fish. But if you're on the other side of the plains here, you will actually get the fish that are local to Onahar Plains. But on top of that, you've got the rivers here that can go out. This is a little nice pool here. But one of the primary locations is here, literally at the Iskar locations in Azure Span. So you'll ideally want to fish here anyway, because the Tuskar do actually have fishing dailies that will attribute to your fishing-based skills. Next, we will have... Next to this, the Cerulean Spinefish This is found in most river openings around the waking shores. Okay, so the Dragon Isles is basically the waking shores. Let's put it that way. So this set is going to be found in most rivers. So when you come into this location here, this won't count. This is considered a shore in the sense. You'll come into this area and this will become the river, and you can go from anywhere between the river lines to just about anywhere. But as soon as you get to the Ebb and Scale base camp, that's actually no more, because this is not deep water. It's like maybe foot deep water. Maybe. The lava is also very important to note, because that is another place where you can get the magma thresher fish, which is actually a very specialty fish used in specific kinds of recipes. It's very important, as I'm pretty sure it involves it's part of one of the feasts. So you want to make sure that you fish up that fish in particular, because it's a feast fish. Basically, the Iskar experts are experts in catching these kinds of specialty fish, but you can find them in hot climates around the Dragon Isles. So the hottest climate obviously is the Waking Shores. However, there are multiple other areas where you can actually fish these up. For example, outside the Vault of Incarnates, the Azir Span, you can actually fish it up in Camp Nowhere down yonder ponder. There is a slight little volcano down by the Azir Span, and over here at the Blackhide Hollow. And as for the Onahar Plains, over by the World Boss, which I think is over here at Nook and Hold, is another location where you could fish the hotter fish. But the primary location is Waking Shores' lava-based location right in front of the dungeon, right in front of Neltharius. So you want to keep that one in mind. That's the best place to find your magma threshers. Next is the Prismatic Leaper School. These fish love to leap from water to water and can be found at some of the highest points in Dragon Isles. And again, the Iskar Tuskar are experts at catching this kind of specialty fish. So if we go to the map yet again here, the highest locations in all of Dragon Isles are actually very prominent and very obvious. Tier Hold is one of the higher locations in Dragonflight, as well as the water right in front of the Vault of Incarnates. That is the primary location where you'd be able to fish those two fish in particular. Yet again, it being a specialty fish means you will actually have to... I've never been there before. It does mean you will actually have to go to the highest location in order to get it and be basically at the raid. It is a feast fish as well, so you will have to fish it up one way or another. As for the Azir Span, there's not really that many high locations in the Azir Span itself. You will have to kind of, I guess, theorize where you would want to go there. For the Onahar Plains, you will actually be going back here behind Nukrin Hold, because this is actually a high mountain range in the backyard, as well as over here by the Emerald Gardens, which is a weird portal location. Don't know what it does. It's a weird portal location. And then the Waking Shores. The highest location in the Waking Shores is actually in Skrelkart Keep. So ideally, you will come to the back end lava area and fish that up, but most likely you will be getting mostly, if not only, magma threshers in the whole entire Waking Shores location. Last but certainly not least is the Rhymefin Tuna. This is another one of those fish where it is mandatory for the feasts, and it can only be found in the frosty climates throughout all of the Dragon Isles. Now, this fish actually has a very special thing as well. When you fish it up, it's already frozen. You actually have to clean off the frost in order to use it. So this allows you to preserve the fish as if the fish were to be caught normally, as in it has no expiration. Once you clean the ice off of it, though, it has a 1 hour time frame on it. So you have 1 hour to use it in a feast, or it's gone. I don't know what it turns into, though. It's just gone. So the frosty locations, as you might be able to tell, there are some ice pools here within the Azir Span that will allow you to fish, but over here up in the Walthus Range will actually allow you to find these two pools up here, which are actually not frozen, as well as this one still in Valkrith Range, which is not frozen as well. Those are two primary icy locations you could find fish, as well as up here by Theron's Watch. Now, you do obviously have to be careful, because you go any little bit over the border here, you will end up in Tharissa, which is not a location that is part of Thaldrissus, which will not be, it won't allow you to fish up the icy fish. Obviously, in Waking Shores, you have only one location, and there are no pools here, so no real way to get any ice fish here. And the same thing goes with Onra Plains. There's not really too many frozen locations, so Azir Span is your best location to end up getting that fish. I will mention that fishing in the sea over at Iskar itself is also another location to find that important fish. Now, there is one extra fishing thing I will throw in, but since we're not at Ishkar itself, I can't talk about the item that physically exists. But there's something that they incorporated in fishing this year, which is something that's very important if you're like me and you have 18 tunes at the ready, because that's how you like to play World of Warcraft. There are AFK fishing nets. That's right, you heard me right. You could get fishing nets, throw them in the water, log in the next day, and bam! Fish. Who doesn't love that? It's free fish. You do nothing. Fish shows up in your inventory. You came back from doing work all day. You get home, your fishing net, it's got 28 fish, 3 treasure chests, and 8 magmatides, because you put a fishing net in the magma zone outside of Dractharan Keep. So yeah, the fishing nets are a huge difference for World of Warcraft, and I see a lot of people most likely using this mechanic very, very heavily. I don't know how many fishing nets you can own, but it's safe to assume you can only own and have one active at a time, or you can only have one active in a zone at a time. Again, unsure what it is. If I find out later, I'll put it in the comment section of this video. Next, let's go into cooking. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, cooking. Oh man, there's a lot of stuff about cooking, but we didn't learn all the recipes strictly on purpose. There are a lot of food for cooking. Lots of foods for cooking. You can go over to the cooking master and see that he has all of these cooking recipes that are extremely important to know. I don't know them right now because I used this thing that set my thing to 100 and didn't look at the cooking recipes. But we can look at it this way and tell you what exactly there is. So there's going to be your normal food, which is just your straight heal food or your straight mana food. Very standard normal stuff. So a lot of food. Then there's when crafting, stuff your recipe with this delicious secret to increase the number of ingredients. The Ooey Gooey chocolate. So the Ooey Gooey chocolate is something I actually want to talk about quite a bit, because what this allows you to do is, instead of making one of one item, you make 200 of one item. So this is very important when making feasts, because you can actually use this Ooey Gooey chocolate to make 100 feasts, 200 feasts, 300 feasts, 400 feasts. You can make a lot of feasts, basically. Do I have a feast on me already? I don't. But basically, you could see it here. This is where you would end up putting the Ooey Gooey chocolate right here in your finishing reagents. And then this would allow you to make a multitude of one specific thing, while the other one increases its resourcefulness and multicraft. Say gain 90 multicraft to a dish using some leftover flavors, or use precise cuts to gain 110 resourcefulness, meaning you save materials. In my opinion, you will almost always use Ooey Gooey, but the problem is that Ooey Gooey has a 1-day cooldown, and you can only craft one at a time. So, in my opinion, what you're honestly supposed to do, in fact, let's go ahead and get this recipe and learn it right now anyway, so I can prove what I'm talking about here. As you can see, it goes up into its own ingredients thing. It doesn't say it has a cooldown physically here, but if we go and get our cooking materials that we need in particular, that I should have got at the start of this video, but totally forgot because I was going to make the video and get everything ready, and then I had to do something very quickly, which was not part of the plan. I also forgot that it's not 200 anymore, it's 1000, but I'm making 200 just because my mind is still set to that anyway. So let me just show you real quick. It does say you need a cooking fire, which if you just go right over to this giant bench, never mind, I lied completely. I'll just set a cooking fire down. If you use a cooking fire, you could see immediately when you craft this first one, it does have a 1-day cooldown, and it is BOP. So this means that if you're like me and you like to make food, the problem is that you're about to be kind of saddened at the results of the Ooey Gooey chocolate. There is only one Ooey Gooey chocolate based recipe that exists, so you have to be careful on what you want to make 200 of that day. Most likely this is something that people are going to use as a personal use instead of doing everything else in between. There's a couple of other things like the multi-craft salad on the side, and then the resourcefulness of the sharp cutting knife. And then you can get snow cones. So why wouldn't you want snow cones? Let's be honest. And then some muffins, some more cakes. A lot of like comedic cooking things were added into this season, but then we get into the real stuff. Churnbly tea, which increases mana, but if you spend 10 seconds eating it, you will become regrettably well fed and gain increased swim speed and breath underwater for 20 seconds, as long as you can stomach it. As long as you can stomach it doesn't mean anything. It does straight up just say, does any food give you crafting buff? There are some foods that do give you crafting buffs, actually. There's incenses as well that will give you crafting buffs. So cooking is extremely important for a lot of the World of Warcraft scene. Most of the stuff you'll see right off the get-go is increase 1 stat, increase 2 stats. So as you can see here with Seamouth Surprise, 125 versatility for an hour, or you can use a different recipe that gives you, where is it? 80 haste and 80 verse for an hour. Now, this food obviously doesn't work in PvP. It does work in PvP non-rated, but in normal PvP rated, not so much. So that double down is not really going to give you too much. The biggest thing, again, still are the feasts. As you can see here, there is Riverside Picnic, which increases your stamina by 32 and agility, being your main stat, by 39. Oh, wait, no, that's just straight agility. So that's not even me. So there are foods that give you stats you can't even use. Decent chance that it won't even let you make it, though, if you're not part of that recipe line. Increasing your strength, a fortune cookie, so you can now actually have something that increases your personal strength instead of just making a feast. So ever wanted to kind of not get your whole entire guild a feast, but have a feast for your own? Well, just eat a faded fortune cookie, you'll be fine. You'll get that 90 strength, and you'll make the rest of your team severely unhappy you didn't make feasts for everybody else. But then you can get to the rest of the banquet as well. You've got your Grand Banquet of Kaluk, which is 90 main stat. You got your Grand Banquet of Veneration, 90 main stat, 90 main stat, 90 main stat. Now, you're probably wondering, why are there 4 different things for 90 main stat? Well, I believe the reason behind this is actually because each faction, so each covenant, dragon, scale people, whatever, they all have their own version of the feast. So when you get to that point in time where you can learn that feast, you have that feast. But the problem is that you could see somebody else drop a Horde of Draconic Delights, but you're part of the Tuskar people, so you're going to drop a Graal's Reverence. And in your mind, you drop the feast first because you saw somebody drop a different feast and you had no idea. But in reality, all of these feasts are completely the same. Some of which restore more health, some of which restore more mana. And then, of course, you have the Hearty Stew, which is you become well-fed and gain 25 to your lowest secondary stat for an hour. A very interesting feast indeed. I don't think that is something that people are going to really want to use, because why would you want 25 in your lowest stat when you can have 90 in your main primary stat? Cooking, however, is still very straightforward. There are a lot of new meats that have been added, as you can see here from this first page, as well as the second page, which is all a new fish and a snowball. And then, of course, you have your mid-range crafting materials, like now you have buttermilk, horn of mead. Horn of mead is not... Okay, these are both mana things. Disregard what I just said. You have your 5 new basic lines. You've got your Ashari potato, 3 cheese blend, pastry packets, conveniently packaged ingredients, and cocoa powder. The cocoa powder is mostly used to make the chocolate, though, as you can see why it's 3 gold apiece. So cooking, still very straightforward, very important, but cooking does indeed still have some buffing things that could buff your crafting, as well as various other things. There are things that increases your inspiration for X amount of time, and it increases your swim speed and swim breath, water breath, for an X period of time. The most important thing is, though, is that while you're cooking, you can also be under the effect of the incenses that come from alchemy. So if we go over to the potion crafter real quick, we should be able to see the incenses right at the end. So as you can see here, it increases your inspiration by 30. Inspiration will still allow you to make tier 3 quality feasts, which, by the way, yes, there are tier 3 quality feasts. It's very important to understand that feasts do have a quality, despite the fact that there is no quality currently while in the beta. They will have a quality. Or they won't. And I'm completely wrong about that. But incense does increase the strength of your cooking, regardless. It could increase the amount you make. It could increase everything else in between. However, using an incense will allow you to gain more in the cooking department. So with that being said, very straightforward video. Still 20 minutes regardless, but which class spec am I maining? I will answer that question in a quick minute. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this video, because I've been recording a video this whole time. So hello, Twitch chat. Sorry, YouTube chat, we're not streaming it to YouTube. But understand that when you're cooking, you have all those other things. There's one little thing I do need to add real quick that I just remembered, that cooking does actually have two pieces of equipment. You get a cooking tool and a cooking accessory. Cooking tool will give you multi-craft and resourcefulness, while the same thing with your cooking accessory will do the same thing. From what I remember, your cooking accessory will come from tailoring, and your cooking tool, I believe, will either come from... It's not from blacksmithing, so I think it's also from tailoring. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this video, and we'll be right back with yet another World of Warcraft video covering the basics of the gathering professions. So don't go far. More World of Warcraft action coming up right around the corner.